Good afternoon, Chris. It's Friday. What's going on?
Not too much. It is a Mavericks Friday, so I'm excited to see how that goes later today. Um, but in the meantime, I can't wait to talk about e-commerce stuff. So welcome to On the Rocks, the show where we talk about accounting and accounting adjacent information, mostly as it relates to e-commerce, but not only. I'm Chris Gino. He's Jay Kimbleman, and we're going to talk to you today about our e-commerce business startup series. So earlier this week, we talked about some things to consider that we finished up our conversation around things to consider when you're starting up your e-commerce business. And today, we're going to extend that a little bit farther to talk about websites and other infrastructure that you need to make. There's a lot of things and considerations to make here, so this may end up being a two-part segment as well, where we don't quite get all the way through everything that we want to talk about, but that's because it's so important and because there's so much information. But before we get to that, what happened this week? I know, Jay, you and I came to the beautiful state of Florida just yesterday
Yeah.
to come hang out with you and listen to some pitches for VC Fast Pitch. And it looks like they weren't the only people with investment related activity going on this past week. As I was looking through accounting today to try to pick up on news and see what was happening, it looks like Audit Board, which is an audit related tool, got acquired. Teal, which is another efficiency tool, was getting some seed funding. And then Jay, I don't know if you got this in advance or if you get all the news from Zero before it becomes news, but apparently Zero must have released their profits sometime this week, and they had a much better year than the year prior. So that was exciting to see. So there was a lot of accounting related investment activity happening, and for companies like Zero, is working out. That was great.
Yeah, and Zero is having some great results. And at the same time, 2024 is the year of the bank feed. They have doubled down to get the bank feeds improved, and you can start seeing those results. And in the last product release, and I think we talked a little bit about this, there were some major feature requests that came out that were very high in the feature request list by the partners. So they're really looking at that and starting to check those boxes and making sure that we as partners, accountants, and business owners have what we need to get our accounting done.
Yeah, and you can see that those efforts have worked out because they're making more money. So good job by you, Zero. Keep up the good work. Then I read a study, or I read an article around a study that was done by I don't even know who. It was someone asked these questions, and they said this evaluation said that the business owners that they talked to say that traditional audits may hinder their own growth, which was the first time that I'd read that. But as I read a little bit more into it, it kind of makes sense, because there are two critical things that happen, right? They suck up time and resources. So you obviously have to pay for an audit, and then you also have to pay for your person to pull all the audit requests. And so it sounds like it may start to be more pushback on from businesses to their auditors in order to try to get them to demanualize or get out of the Stone Age as far as audit work goes. So I will be interested to see what types of solutions come out in that space. I know that there are some that we've talked about before, and definitely some that can help to make that audit process a little bit less of a beatdown.
Now,
because it's definitely causing
the
problems.
companies that were being surveyed in this, are these smaller companies that are privately held, or were any of those SEC type companies that are required to go through audits versus the smaller companies that their banks might require audit. They always say we want an audit, and then when you push back, they say, "Well, take a review." Things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, is that the type of business that is impacted by it? Because
I didn't read the article that closely, or I don't even
Okay.
know whether it actually included who it was. Right, I saw the headline, and I read I read it very briefly of like what the whys were, like why business owners were saying this, and because it's business owners, because it was like directly business owners were the people saying this. I assume that means that smaller companies, because those big SEC companies, most of them won't be like individually held that way, because they'll have all of the institutional capital or whatever.
Right.
So I assume it's the smaller companies, right? And
Yeah.
and given that that's the case, right? And they have these individuals that should be doing pay runs or invoice applications or whatever it might be, and are sucked up instead of pulling invoices and doing all kinds of other supporting tasks. So
Yeah. I mean, I
assume
told you
it would be small business.
I shared with you my years at Siemens, and
Yeah.
year after year they'd come and do an internal audit as part of their annual audit through whoever their external auditors were, because we were such a
Right.
small unit. But the resources that it used to deliver the information that they were looking for was astronomical. And then on top of it, the entire balance sheet was under the materiality threshold.
Yeah.
So again,
Right.
it's like, why go through the process?
Yeah, and so it sounds like lots of business owners are starting to feel that a little bit more as well. So it'll be an interesting development, I think, to see how that continues to play out. Because if there is enough pushback, there will have to be change, or exactly what you're talking about, right? Those folks who are getting the audits for their bank may take some other strategy. Or banks may need to consider what they really need or what they're really looking for if business owners continue to complain.
For sure.
And then I saw a different report, and this one I actually do know who was surveyed, but it was another survey. This one was by Gartner, and what Gartner did was they had a conversation, I guess, with about 300 FP&A teams of really good sized businesses. So these are like 250 million plus. So these are big, but those FP&A that have a full FP&A team, and those big FP&A teams were overburdened and are overworked and are running into some of those same types of problems that we just talked about, in that they're utilizing resources to be responsive, instead of to be forward thinking and making true value add. And so that wasn't a surprise to me, I guess. I mean that those kinds of things make sense, but it did. There were some talking points around updating technology and improving the way that those things are working. So it's another area, FP&A, and is another area where technology is going to have a positive impact, and really be complementary to the work that people are doing, instead of replacing. So excited to see the future changes that come there. Jay, I saw one other news thing. I hadn't heard this until I was looking for the news. But Barry Melancon, or whatever his name is he's set to retire. So I don't even know what he does, except for he's always like the most influential person on that most influential CPA's list or whatever, because he is the head of the AICPA. But he's retiring. I feel like he's been doing that forever. So I guess I'm not too shocked that he's retiring, but he's set to retire. So thanks for all your hard work, I guess, making the CPA important. Maybe he's tired of dealing with pipeline issues,
Possibly.
or hearing people talk about it. That wouldn't be a huge surprise. So that's the news that I saw this week. Jay, did I miss anything? Did you see any interesting accounting related news or
Well,
e-commerce
one
related
interesting
news this week?
headline, which I want to dig into a little deeper for next week, is
Yeah.
there are indications that IRS audits are showing unintended ethnic and racial bias. So I'm going to
Oh, I
get
saw
back
that.
to
I
us
saw
on
this
that.
article.
Yeah, I want to get
Yeah,
back. I
I
want to
saw
read
that
that and get
article,
back to
but
that. So,
that sounds like it'll be interesting because I would be curious like why that's happening and what they're gonna do about it because definitely want that to not be happening, right?
right. And,
For sure.
does it come down to socioeconomic issues? I mean, you know,
Yeah.
people at the lower scale of that earn less
Hmm.
and more often than not are on W-2s. And
Right.
so, I don't see where that audit is coming from unless it has to do with like the EIC or something like that, where
Hmm.
they're getting through
Yeah.
the due diligence and getting higher refunds. That's why I want to see it and see what's going on there because
Yeah.
as we talked
It'll be interesting.
about,
I look forward
yeah, as we talked about
to
tax season,
keep hearing what
you
you learn.
put those signs out, hey, come get your $12,000 tax refund. But
Yeah. Right.
yeah, so we'll see. We'll have information on that next week for sure.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'll look forward to hearing about that. Another thing that I'll look forward to hearing about one day is tax updates. Tax updates. I know. I feel like we would have heard about it if there was anything, but I know
Yeah.
that both have been very busy this week. So I am guessing that that it's just gonna that there's just nothing, right? Is that
Yeah,
true? Is that where
I
we
believe the
stand right now?
Senate only held a vote on another failed border bill. I think it was a border bill. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Come on, senators, get your stuff together. Jay, I know that that it was an exciting day for you, so I won't be surprised if you tell me that you're just having a glass of water today. Um, but
uh,
what's your drink of choice today?
my water's over there. I am in the coffee. I mean, it's been
Oh, all right.
a long day, and we
Yeah.
showed up at the UCF arena for my daughter Abigail's high school graduation at 7:30, and
Ooh.
I've had to this point. That's my fourth cup of coffee today, and
Yeah,
that's my
that's pretty late for you, Jay.
yeah, it's late and very low in the coffee volume for me. So making up a little bit of time because we have a party tomorrow for graduation, and might
Right.
have bit off a little more than I could chew today because we got a lot going on. They're in the kitchen right on the other side of that
Over
wall,
there.
working on some food prep for tomorrow. Right outside my
Awesome.
window, we got a water slide out there because we have 35 kids from the dance team. We have a bunch
Teenagers.
of
Yeesh.
teenagers coming, so we have activities. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a great Saturday, and
Yeah.
and then as we talked about, also we have 1,100
Yeah.
miles on Sunday. So we have the Indianapolis 500, followed by the Coca-Cola
Oh
600,
yeah. Yeah.
and
Well,
uh,
let's put those things on hold because I want to hear your thoughts on some of that stuff.
oh, for sure,
But let's get to the
yeah.
goods. Actually, I am drinking a crispy Comet today. Crispy. Nope, not that way. This way.
There you go.
Crispy Comet. Crispy Comet was made by Oak Cliff Brewing here in the DFW area, um, and and it is a cold IPA, so it's kind of it's I'm enjoying it. So there you go. Now, today, like I mentioned at the top here, we've talked for several weeks now about a variety of different things that e-commerce business owners need to know and need to be thoughtful about as far as setting up their business, talking about the finances of their business, and everything that goes into that. And so we're gonna do that some more today. And like I mentioned, this one we're talking about websites and other like infrastructure stuff. So obviously, I mean, I think it goes without saying, truly, like one of the most important things that you can invest in as an e-commerce platform and e-commerce business is your website. There are loads of things that you want to do on that website, so that users have a good experience, right? And that people can find what they're looking for easily. So I made the joke about brownbeer.com a few weeks ago, right? And so if you're brownbeer.com, but you don't like advertise that it's a thing, or no one can see the pictures of your beer in a frosty mug, or those types of appealing things, that may not be great. Jay, what are some things that make those e-commerce websites so important?
Well, I think the biggest factor is the usability of the site itself. And when I say usability, it's both the end user, but also your team that's putting that site together. You want to make sure you have something that is easy to build on and flexible, and you want to make sure that when you're doing so, it's lightweight and loads fast, and you're not making your end user wait, because the longer they wait,
Right.
they're bouncing. They're going to the next site if they got to wait. So
That's right.
easy to read,
So load time.
fast to load, and remove as much friction from the purchase process as you can.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that those are kind of the big main things to consider, right? I think it's also important that there's good information about your product on that as well. Like that especially if it's something that contains like what's it made of, what sizes does it come in, what is the difference between those? Like all of those things that a customer is going to use when they're making a decision. You want all of that to be easily accessible, but also like good looking, right? You don't want a 1980s looking website where you have a tab bar on the left or something, and you have to drill down to learn everything. Like users want it to be easy to interact with, like you're talking about, Jay. And then there's another important factor that we don't really always think about when we think about websites, but lots of folks they're using this to make their purchasing decisions, and so you need it to not just be a like what a regular internet page. Oh my gosh! But you also need it to be like mobile active as well, and you want the functionality to be similar between those, because you want people to be able to buy your products however they're looking at the internet. And especially with retail, like direct to consumer retail, like so much of your traffic may come from social media, and that like you really do need that mobile portion to maybe even be better, or where you're really focused. And so I do think that that's probably a thing that you need to consider as you're designing your web page, is where is your traffic coming from, and who's going to be looking at it, and what's their experience going to be like. All of those are important factors and features to consider. Also extremely important is like your e-commerce platform, right? Like who are you going to use to help you to sell? Jay, do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, so there are a few very popular website builders, so to speak, or platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at those, we have Shopify, WooCommerce, Magento, and BigCommerce. And you go back 5 years ago, Shopify was there, but it was not the leader in the space. And I really think Magento and BigCommerce really were larger at that time, but all the momentum. Before we get there, WooCommerce was purchased by Automatic, which is a company that owns WordPress. So I thought at that point that when that happened, that WooCommerce was going to just take off and be the platform for e-commerce, and it didn't. And part of that is the lack of what's the word I'm thinking of here?
Yeah.
Well, add-ons to it. I was thinking more line of, like extensions, but that's a Chrome browser.
Bells and whistles
but yeah,
and whatnot.
So yeah, and you look at things like connecting to Zero Accounting from WooCommerce. The app that they had was abysmal at that point, and nobody wanted to work with it. And there was one connector, and then Intuit bought it, and then there was no connector. And it's like, I was talking to firms like, hey, we need a connector. Let's build something. And there are a few more out there now, but I mean, that's kind of what happened with WooCommerce. It's like, it was the same thing, different feature, function, whatever it happened to be. And, Shopify just kept investing in its product. And it's truly the leader now. And I don't think it's going anywhere. And honestly, everything they make, they put back into the product, and they're doing such a great job. You can easily slap up a e-commerce website on Shopify in minutes, and it does a fairly decent job. Right out of the box. And there are plenty of
those are some
apps
factors
there, but yeah.
And that's some of the factors to consider when you're picking it. Right, is how easy is it to build onto or build into? How does it connect to your accounting system, or does it connect at all? Are you going to need to use an integrating partner or something like that to help you? Something like ADX, right? Where you can take data and get it in more cleanly. Like, what does that look like? Not just how easy is it to build onto, but how easy is it to use, to just generally, like. How easy is it to click through the platform? How easy is it to get reporting? How does it connect to your 3PL and your fulfillment centers? Like how well does that integration work? Is it going to be able to grow with you? Right? Like, these are important questions that you have to ask yourself.
Right.
And then of course one other one that you always have to ask yourself too is it how much does it cost? Like, is this affordable? Am I in the life stage to be able to do this for your business? And I know as a general rule, because of the number of times that I've seen it, like, Shopify seems to do this pretty well, where they kind of do all of those things okay. And like you said, it's because they're continuing to invest in the platform, and I don't know a whole lot about the others. Do you want to talk more about some of those other platforms and how user friendly they are or aren't?
Well, as far as the ones that I have used in the last year, I about a year ago I started working with BigCommerce for a client, and just to change part of the description, you had to know coding to go into code to change it. So
really?
That's crazy. I mean, the average user doesn't need to know that, and I had to dig deep into the documentation to figure out how to do it. And it was just it was the footer of the website. I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult to edit your footer. And
you would hope not, right?
Yeah, same thing on Shopify. It's like, oh, click, 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 done. And it was so much easier. So you want to make sure that you're using a platform that is, as easy for you as it is for your customer.
Right. Absolutely. One other thing to consider with your e-commerce platform is hosting. Jay, do you want to talk about self-hosting or otherwise hosted e-commerce platforms?
Sure. As somebody that hosted their own e-commerce and inventory platforms way back when in the mid 2000s, self-hosting it's a little easier today in the world of virtual servers. But I mean, if you're spinning up a physical server, and you put it in your own location, I would never recommend that any longer because of the availability of virtual servers. And having
Yeah.
your own virtual server means you have to maintain it and make sure that it's patched and everything is updated on it.
Well, I have maybe a really dumb question about this because I don't know a lot of the computer side of this. What does doing that do, or what's the effort that goes into that, and what is it? Does this allow for the latency and the like loading speed, or what is how does
Well,
this
some of that
impact your website?
does. Some of that does. I
Mhm.
mean, the traffic on the web server sometimes impacts the uh, speed and the serving capabilities, but the biggest factor truly is the database under the underlying databases underneath it and the search times.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah,
you want to make
gotcha.
sure that you have, high speed drives and SSDs probably the best thing today, and they are on RAID drives because you want it to be redundant. The biggest factor
Yeah,
though, like I mentioned, making sure it's patched. If you're running your own web server and you're using a Windows server for that, let's say, you want to make sure
uh-huh.
that you are applying all the updates appropriately because of security issues with the web servers,
Right,
and you don't want anything to happen, any information to be stolen or anything along those lines. But
yeah,
a
and we've
lot of
talked
web
about.
servers, yeah,
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot of times, right? Of how important maintaining the integrity of customer data and customer information can be because
yeah,
cybersecurity is just so much of a risk now. So yeah,
right.
it is important that that if you are choosing to self-host, that you are patching and maintaining that properly. Otherwise, you'll have a lot of exposure.
Yeah, and then if you are self-hosting, do you go the Windows route? Do you go Linux? What version, what operating system are you using? Back in the
Right.
day, I did some Linux and had some Apache servers running, and they were I mean they it was running on a very old PC, and it did really well.
Uh,
But you don't want to
yeah.
be on an old machine because you want to make sure it stays up. That's the key, and that's why
Right.
you run virtual machines, because you're running off whether it's AWS or Azure or a Google instance that is safe, secure, reliable, and
Right.
odds are your virtual machine will stay up and run forever. You
Yeah.
just want to make
No,
sure
that's
it's secure
right.
and it's stable.
Yep. No, and those are super, super important things to consider, and
And
also
then
understanding the interplay between the platforms themselves and where your website is hosted like that. That's also an important thing.
right, and then thinking about it, if you go, let's say, the Shopify route where they host it, they're doing all of it. I don't know if there's an SLA guarantee for uptime. I know if you're on a Plus
Mm,
plan, if you're using Shopify Plus, where you're paying over $2,000 a month, there you will have a server that is up 99.9% of the time, and
yeah,
you don't have to worry about those things because you need to worry about selling product, making sure you
that's
have the
right.
product to sell, not worry about the
Yeah,
technology underlying it. You get the most
that's
reliable
right.
platform you can, and sell, sell, sell. That's what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. And to do that, or to help do that, one of the important things to consider is the design of your website and the user experience. We've already touched on that a little bit, um, but yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about that here. Of like, what makes an effective e-commerce website design? Like, are there I think we've talked about these things already, right? It's clean looking, easy to access, intuitive navigation. I think is a really important thing too. Like when it comes to being user friendly, that is how you make it user friendly. Is like every time I think about an e-commerce platform right now, I think about Viore, like I mentioned before, and so there, they are clothing shop, right? And they have sections on their webpage for men's and women's and tops and bottoms and all of these types of things, right? And so creating a website that allows for that easy navigation so that you can go find what you're looking for and find it quickly is really, really important. And then just making it appealing in general. Like I think it is good too, right? Like if you're a clothing shop, you don't want the clothes just like laying around. They always look so much better with attractive people in them, right? Like you don't want, like an eBay picture where somebody took a picture on their carpet in their house or something, right? You want a more professional looking photo, and no matter if it's a can of beer or like a watch, like it could be anything, right? You want it to look nice, and that is an important thing. Yeah, Jay.
And here I thought you were going to say you wanted it to have attractive people like you and me, Jay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the Vuori site right now, and that's exactly what we have there. And it's
right.
Clean, it's crisp, beautiful pictures, and
yeah, they got nice landscapes, all that kind of stuff too,
and
right?
You
like
think about the design.
Advertising is very thoughtful.
Yeah, you think about design though. It doesn't matter if it's your e-commerce website or your accounting services website. People look at that website the same way. They scan across the top from left to right. They scan down to the left-hand side and then around. So it's a Z pattern that they look. So when you think about it, you want your calls to action to be in the upper right-hand corner, in the center of the screen, on the left-hand corner, and right-hand corner of the bottom. And that's what they have there. It's like you look at the site. And I should pull it up, but I'm not going to make that because I don't have it set up to do that right now. But, it's right there on the lower right-hand side. Click on Shop Women's Travel. I mean, right there. Put your buttons where the eyes are going to scan. It's really important. And, there's also, like, I can't remember the name of it. It's an app that you could put on where you could see the hot spots in your site where people move their mouse. And so, you can follow that and see where those spots in your site are really attracting the user to go and follow. And I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, it's really useful.
All right.
So things like that.
We're going to be talking about this for a while, so we may bring that up then again next week if it comes back to you, Jay. Mm-hmm. But another thing that you need to think about in this user experience is exactly what I mentioned before. You need to optimize it for mobile, right? Most people are going to be looking at it on their phone, and you need it to have a responsive design. You need those clicks. You need them to do stuff. You need them to do stuff that people expect them to do, and you need it to work good that way. One other point that we have here too is to incorporate trust signals and social proof, and so I think that's really interesting. That this would be like customer reviews, the quotes from your clients, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, reviews, testimonials for sure. And there's another app that will pop up on the site every time somebody makes a purchase and tell you, Chris from Dallas has just made a purchase.
Yeah, sure.
So it's tracking those sales, and it's like it's kind of anonymizing the data, but there are probably how many Chris's in Dallas? I mean, come on,
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Exactly.
There's probably a lot just in my neighborhood.
Exactly. Yeah. So all that helps, and then the other social proof is, using your social media and posting things and then following the comments and the engagement. Your fans that are buying your products, they will engage with your posts, and you want to see that.
Okay.
And, you post something about a new product, and, next thing there's comments on there about some of the other products that they've purchased. and how excited they are to get that new product. So it's a lot of things that you got that goes into this, And,
right. And that's a good reminder. It reminds me of when I back at Oktoberfest time, which has been a long time ago now. But I finally got Allstat local beer. I'd been looking for their Oktoberfest 2 years ago, but I could never find it, and it wasn't in the Kroger when I went to Kroger. The next year I found it, and I added them on Twitter when I was drinking it, and they responded, and I was so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, they care that I did this. They told me where I could find it again. Like they gave me a list and a link to like, here's where it is in local places. You should look here. It was so helpful. And so being responsive to your customers can go a long way, because like I will always try something of theirs now because of that interaction. If I see something that's new of theirs, I will try it every time. So I am a very good example of exactly that concept, Jay. So moving a little bit past like just the website design itself, we talked a little bit about some of the other infrastructure that you need, right? And that becomes your product catalog and your inventory management, and also like understanding how you want that to show up on your website, right? Do you need menus and layers like we've talked about here, or is it just like a whole product list where you scroll through the whole thing? Like there has to be some way that it's cataloged, and of course it's important for all of your products to be listed on your websites. Otherwise, people aren't going to be able to buy them. And so Jay, do you have any tips or any history, any good stories around setting up and organizing your product catalog?
Yeah, so setting up your items in your catalog, it's the most important thing you're going to do, because the structure you set will follow it through everything you do in your business. And one thing that I will say is, when you're setting up your products, think about how you want to do your reporting on the other side. So think about your sales reports, your inventories, your sales, inventory, product, all those different reports that you have, and what categories you want. So you want to use those categories, or Shopify calls them collections. You can add tags to those products to keep them together in like manners. And whether you're going directly from Shopify Ecommerce into your accounting or whatever, when we are looking at that, we are, depending on your needs, you might need an inventory app to ensure that your fulfillment needs are getting taken care of, so that you can process those orders to ensure your customers are getting them. Now, you might be using a 3PL, a third-party logistics warehouse, to do your fulfillment. That would be, a warehouse like Chris's Fulfillment, which is just like Amazon, but it's not an Amazon warehouse. They have their own warehouse with their own, facilities. They will track your orders, ship your orders, and such. So, there are a lot of apps that will connect Shopify, Woo, Magenta to the 3PLs. Some 3PLs integrate directly into those systems, and that handles that side for you. And then, Shopify to A to X, or Shopify to one of the inventory apps to process your accounting, and you got it. Or you go the route of, Sin7, Unleashed, Finale Inventory, and you pull all your orders through there, you process them, you have the full purchase to pay process in there, where purchase order, receive, bill, all that stuff, and you're doing the full process from purchasing through shipment, fulfillment. You have accurate cost of goods sold, you have landing costs, you have all of those things. all of that would be in
Right.
your inventory app. Then that would sync over to accounting, and now you have your master of inventory. So, if you're selling on multiple platforms, channels, etc., it's all right there, and makes it easy.
Yep, and that's an important thing to do, because you want to be able to import and manage your product data like as effectively as you can, because it will become important across, like you're talking about, using different platforms, reordering the inventory, maintaining a log of the inventory that you have through your inventory management system, right? So you need
For
to
sure.
also understand how the different platforms all talk together. And whether there's an integration with your inventory management system, right? Or
Yeah.
whether Shopify is connecting really well to Sin7 or to one of your other products, Unleashed or whatnot. Um, and then you also want to have an understanding or an idea, on what you're going to do with product variations. So you have maybe in the beer instance that I keep going back to, maybe you have a 12-ounce can and a 12-ounce bottle and a 16-ounce can, right? Like
Yep.
they're all the same product, but they come in different shapes, right? And what do you want that to look like, and how do you want that to look in your system as well? Like what naming conventions are you going to utilize,
And that
or
leads
what, right?
to each of those variants of that same product would be a different SKU, and SKU is
Mm-hmm.
stock keeping units, and that is what
Right,
systems use to track those items. So every item
right.
should also have a SKU as well.
Yep, and then that allows it to be easier to manage, because then you don't have 16-ounce can A and 16-ounce can B, or 2023, or if you think about like Excel files, right? You don't have version 27 dot final dot X or whatever. You keep that out, right? So
Yep,
you want to be thoughtful about what you're doing there for sure.
for
Um,
sure.
and from the same perspective of variance, you also want to think about customizations. So not everybody's going to have. I mean, you're not going to be making a customized beer. Like that would be a little bit weird. Like one unit like that, you wouldn't do that. But there are lots and lots of businesses that would do customization, and 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 you want to make sure that you've planned that in as well, of how you manage that. When I think about that, I think about, um, my wife got for Christmas a like little train set, for like a holiday train set, and you could buy like one set A, B, or C, or if you wanted, you could like double down and get A and B, or B and C, or A and C. And so their like product listing was complicated because of this, and we had to read it like four times to make sure we were getting the right thing, right, and that we were getting the thing we wanted. um, and and so it's really important to be really thoughtful about that, not only from your own internal management of that, but also from a user experience, because you want those options, to be easy to select, and then also um, to be easy for you to understand that on as you're fulfilling it, for sure. Are there other product catalog or inventory management things that people should be considering, as they're spinning up and starting up, Jay?
I would definitely look at ensuring your descriptions are listing features and the things that help sell that product. A lot of
Right.
these platforms are incorporating AI into it now so that it could help you have the best
Yeah. Tell
descriptions.
more.
So, and
Right.
that ultimately, that and like you said, good pictures of these products. If it's clothes, you want to
Yep.
have a mock-up of it, whether in a model or there's ways to do it now where you can actually put that mock-up on a picture, and it will look as
Yeah.
if they're wearing that T-shirt. So, it's come so far now with that
Right.
technology. So.
Well, and I have heard with a couple of my clients some other, AI technologies that they've been considering working with, of that even just impact the way that like they do like some studying of if your box is twisted to the right, um, this is much more positive response versus it being twisted to the left or straight in front of you. Like there's so much that goes into that, um, and there are lots of options between like your historical just photographs
Mm-hmm.
or like programs and AI solutions that can do some of that for you with the information that's already available.
And that might be
Um,
something we're going to be talking about down the road, but that's, A/B testing. We do things like that where,
oh yeah,
okay, will this product sell better with this image or that image, with the box angled to the left or to the right, things like that. And
yeah,
you do that with your copy. You do that with all different things. So,
yeah,
those are
yeah. And
definitely
this
things that you want to be doing ongoing
yeah, and this AI
when
tool
you're
was
in the
was
sales
the it
process.
was like it used their own like algorithm or whatever to say like the expectation is that this one will be 75% better without doing the A/B test. It like did the A/B test without doing the A/B test,
Right.
um, which is an interesting thing that um, that is an option or is available. So
Right.
I'll be monitoring really closely like how those types of things continue to go for sure. Um, the I think maybe the last thing that we'll talk about as far as website development and planning and things today is the checkout process. And so there are a few features that I think that that you want to make sure that you have considered and figured out, and incorporate them how you see fit, right, or how you find best, right?
Yeah.
And so that starts with the checkout platform itself, right? What do you want that to look like? What kind of partner are you going to use on the pay side? There are lots of different gateways that exist, and maybe you will use several of them, but do you want to use PayPal or Stripe or who would you use, right? Whoever
Yeah.
you want to, you want to make sure that you understand how that process is working, and how that is integrated so that you get your money, which is a very important part of this process.
Yep.
One other thing that you also want to consider, and that we've talked about a little bit, is the tax considerations, right? Because if your website is live, it could be in lots of different places, and so it is important to find a good tax solution, because you're not going to want to calculate the sales tax on every item on your own, I promise you. Um, and you don't want to do that to your customer either. You want them to know exactly what they're going to be paying for at the time that they're checking out, in this D2C situation, right? And so it's really important that you include a proper tax calculation already, and then on top of that too, if you're going to be charging for shipping, you want the shipping calculation to be accurate as well. And so integrating the shipping calculation and the tax calculation into your sell platform, are both like extremely important things to do. And you also want them to be accurate, right? Because you don't want your customer to pay some amount of shipping that isn't what you end up paying, because you'll probably end up paying more, right? And that just ends up being not great, right? Um, and then at the after sale process, you want that to also be manageable through your website too, or somehow, right? So order tracking, order management, like what does your cart look like? How do you remind people that it's maybe been abandoned, or that where can they go find their orders, their historical orders, like all of that. You want to be able to give to your users, because it's a thing that they want to know, and it's a thing that they want to be able to do too. And it's the same with tracking of like, all right, I've made the order now. Where does it stand now? I know it was so revolutionary when Domino's did theirs, of like, your Brian has pulled your pizza. He's rolling out the dough or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember like the first time that we ever used that, I was like, "What is happening? It's on the way. This is crazy." Um, but it was so helpful, right? Because it gave you as the user so much information about, where's your product, how long is it going to take to get there, like all of that kind of stuff. That that's really, really important. Are there other features or facts that people should be thinking about when they think about the pay process and the after sale?
Yeah, well, going back to the cart itself and the checkout process. So you want
Yeah.
that to be as clean as possible. And the other thing, going back to the Viore site, right across the top,
Yeah.
it says $75, orders of $75 or more get free shipping. Well,
Free shipping,
that is
yeah.
one way to increase your average order value. That is one of those metrics
Sure
that we
is.
talked about, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times
And
ago. Right.
you increase that average order, it's so much easier to get a sale today to do that. And so you're driving that on your checkout page. Other things that you're driving there as well are other suggested products that might match some of the things in your cart. So you do that. And then the other thing is, I love when I go onto a Shopify site because I put in my phone number. It knows who I am, and it knows that I have Shop Pay and what cards I have. It makes it really simple for me to pay. The other thing I really like when I'm on an e-commerce site to pay with is Apple Pay because it makes it easy. It's frictionless. I don't have to pull my credit card out. It's right there. I just choose Apple Pay, choose the right payment. One click there, and then 2 taps on the side. Done. It makes it super, super easy. And by doing so, it allows me to check out and, having those factors on that page. Let's not pay for shipping. Let's buy 2 more items. And you do that. And, you buy those 2 more items and then they show up. It's like, oh, yeah, I like them. And let's go buy some more.
Right. Yeah.
And you keep mentioning after sale. There's an app called After Sale on Shopify. So after the checkout, they send you an email that says, hey, guess what? We're selling these items also at a discount. Would you like to add this onto your order? So again, increasing that average order value. So, it's all about that AOV.
Yeah, no, super, super critical thing. And I think really the best word to kind of summarize the conversation that we've had today is frictionless, right?
Most definitely.
You want your website to be frictionless. You want it to be very smooth, very clean. You want the user's experience to be frictionless. You want them to find what they want and find it quickly.
Yep.
You want them to be able to check out easily. You want them to be able to you want on your side your inventory to be connected and frictionless, so that fulfillment can happen easily and frictionless. And so I think that's a really great place to stop and a really great place to have that summary of. But make sure your website and all of the processes that go around it are frictionless. Next week we'll talk a little bit more about kind of the detail, like more technical details of website stuff. That'd be like security and compliance, performance and optimization, and then maintenance and updates. So we'll talk more about those types of things next week. But first, it's a long weekend, Jay. So I know we got all kinds of long weekend stuff. So you're partying with the little one that's not that little anymore tomorrow.
For sure.
And then do we race on Sunday or is that
we are racing we're in Charlotte. I mean, Memorial Day weekend is a Charlotte NASCAR weekend. It's a home weekend because all of the teams, 90% of the teams are based out of Charlotte. And we have a race tonight. We have a race tomorrow. We have qualifying tomorrow for the Cup race, the longest race of the year. And that will take place after the Xfinity race. So it's very unusual because they're going to be qualifying on a rubbered up track. So I am looking forward to it. It's going to be, with all of the festivities, the feistiness we had at the end of the All-Star race last week. It's going to be a very anticipated race come Sunday evening. And it's anticipated to start around 6:15. That time is very flexible, as was the All-Star race, because one of NASCAR's stars, Kyle Larson, is starting 5th in the Indy 500. And
I didn't realize he did that well. Wow.
Yes. Okay. He was in the top 12, so he stayed an extra day, which kept him, why Sunday they pushed the race back another 20 minutes, and they had to give him some time to get from Indy to North Wilkesboro last week. So this has been great, and the only hiccup is the forecast in Indy is for rain, which means it might get delayed, or the best thing is it gets postponed immediately, and then we have Memorial Day racing in Indianapolis, which is kind of what I'm hoping for, because Memorial. I mean, it gives a little extra purpose for Monday, But I love the 1,100 miles of Memorial Day weekend, and I'm so looking forward to it. And the Coca-Cola 600 has had some excitement in the past. Charlotte's always a great track. The new car is great on that 1.5-mile track. So, and then we have the Ricky Kyle thing. What's going to happen? Kyle's car owner, Richard Childress, says, well, if he wants to wreck my car, well, he's going to have to come fight me. So, I can't wait. It's great. And, so we got that. We got, we're going to celebrate, our fallen heroes on Memorial Day. And that's what it's truly about, is our fallen heroes. And,
Yeah. Well, that should be an exciting weekend. Obviously, it's an exciting weekend here in the DFW area, as our hockey team and basketball team are both in their respective conference finals. And so we've got games 2 tonight and tomorrow. And then the Mavs will be playing game 3 on Sunday. And the Stars will have a Memorial Day Stars match, I suppose, is what it sounds like. So, where stars are definitely green, and like a dark and a light green. Maybe we should call it the Stars Fatigues or something, right? And celebrate the people that have protected this country for sure. We also, it's the real kickoff to summer, I think, in a lot of spaces, right? There's a couple parties going on in this area. People are getting to the pool, so the weather hopefully will be nice for that this weekend too. So we'll maybe have some fun stories about pool time and whatever else.
Last week you told your control story and talking about socks. Yeah, and it's Memorial Day. Memorial Day is when we bring out the white, the white shoes and the white, all those rules about summer. So, let's get things rolling.
That's right. So. Let's do it. Well, it's time then, Jay, to get on to the weekend. So let's do it. I know you got a lot of prep and party prep to do.
Yeah.
So go help make pizza or whatever you guys are making there in the kitchen. Have a great time. I hope Abby has just a blast. And
cheers to you, and cheers to everybody out there for a great Memorial Day weekend. And make it a great one. And we'll catch you next Friday, right back here.
See you
everybody.
Bye.